Hello, YouTube. This is...
Hey, what's up?
You have to say your name.
Oh, I have to say my
name. And Aaron Losey from Lone Star Drift. I and Fielding today... Oh, wait. Fielding and I, proper grammar, are going to do a video where we just show you a bunch of tire wear, explain how to read a tire so that you know how to get the best tire life possible. Because I go to drift events all the time, even on Drift Week. I don't want to call the people out. People are getting 3 laps to a set of tires because they didn't know how to align their car, have the correct arms on it, do all that stuff. And they're like, oh, arms are $200, Aaron. I don't have money. You're like, you just wasted $1,000 in tires. So let's go look at it. One sec. I have to go over to my tire pile. Let me show it to you. So we're gonna look at some tires, grab some and drag them inside because it's kind of windy out here, and show you. Okay, I have all the tires lined up for you. This is gonna be, first of all, get it out of the way. I'm sponsored by Kenda Tires, and he's sponsored by Kenda Tires, not because they give us the most money, but because they're the best tires for grassroots stuff. They get the most laps, bang for the buck. Great tires for that. It's not gonna be the grippiest tire for Formula D. It's gonna be the best tire for grassroots stuff.
Yeah, it's the best value. You get the most laps per dollar, most consistency throughout the entire life of the tire. So the best thing you can ask for a grassroots fun car.
Yep. Okay, so let's get started. To talk about real quickly, I guess this is us getting started. Tires die from bad alignment, so toe or camber being off. Tires die, and that can be fixed, and you could get, man, 10% of the tire life. If you see a super stands out car like that, it's gonna get maybe 10% of the tire life of what it could get, which means it's spending a ton of money on tires. It also would kill them on the street, not just in drifting, but drifting, it would just annihilate them.
And you'd have zero grip.
Zero grip, yeah.
This much tire touch.
Even if you had a 335i, or not an I, that's a car. 335 tread width, it would have no grip because you'd only be on that much of it. And then you also have, you'd be beating on the tire, and that is what we would consider like abuse and wear. You can beat on a tire within its temperature range, and as long as you're within that range, you're within the designed like parameters of not destroying the tire and it just like flying apart, but also at the ideal grip level. So you need to keep the tire within that. Is there anything else to talk about?
Too much heat will kill a tire.
Yeah, that's under abuse, is too much heat.
Yeah. Bad alignment, like you said, too much heat.
Yeah. Oh, let's just get started. And if I think of anything else, we'll talk about it. But this is not a well thought out video. Let's just talk. So I've picked all these tires for you out of our tire pile out there for various reasons. Most of them are Kendas, but not all. I think I have one that's not a Kenda down there as an example of kind of how a different tire falls apart. So let's read this. We're purposefully picking a really bad one right here. This is what I call chunking, and this is a Kenda, and typically they don't ever chunk, but we'll explain why this one chunked. So this is probably off of Drift Week.
Yeah, this is from Musselman.
Okay, and what happened here is, how many laps were you guys getting on this? Because this is your tire, right?
Yeah.
It's a 275, and you're the only person that's ever had a 275 of these. Because we run 265s.
So many laps, like probably in the neighborhood of 60 to 80, realistically, and most of those were consecutive, so we didn't really come off track unless we ran out of gas or crashed. So much heat was being put into the tire, and it wasn't wearing out because it's such a smooth track. So the heat has to do something, and eventually it gets into the layers between the outer rubber and then the inner structure. And that's when you see that chunking.
And what happens is, if you're watching this in real time, when you pull off track before this starts doing this, the tire will blister and bubble. And then as soon as you get those bubbles, just like a blister on your hand, to pop, you then have a big problem of all the rubber around that falls away. And he already got a ton of laps out of this, so many more than you'd normally get. But if he were to cool this down and be very gentle on it, he maybe could have got like 100,
so
200,
actually,
who knows?
On my other pair, I did that, and I just let it cool off for a little bit, and then I went back out there because I was like, I'm not gonna spend more money on tires. I'm gonna just use these.
Yeah.
And they made a bunch of weird noise, and they felt a little bit like shimmy, I guess is a,
because you could feel like the belts and everything giving up and falling apart. Yeah, you could feel it kind of wiggling
around, but this tire still had plenty of grip, and it still worked perfectly. It wasn't this particular one; it was another pair I had, and I wore them all the way down to the cords completely. So despite the sound, I wouldn't have street driven it like that. I wouldn't have done it in the rain, but besides the noise and the sound and the vibration, it was fine, and I drifted on it.
So specifically what happened to this tire is, it was full tread and or not full tread, but you know, it had a lot of tread left, and it started coming apart because the heat destroyed it internally and it came apart. So if Fielding would have given it more time to cool down, he probably could have got at least twice the tire life for, I don't know, maybe another 40%. But because we had limited time on track, and because oftentimes you don't have 5 days at the same place to let everything cool down and heat up, you are going to destroy parts on purpose, which we do, but we're just telling you why this tire fell apart. This was not after 3, 4, 5 laps. This is after 60 laps. And it's due to heat and it's driver error, but it's also a driver's choice to keep going when he knows he's going to do this. Which we're always going to destroy tires when drifting.
And in this case, like, I was driving with a bunch of friends. We were having an amazing tandem. I didn't want to come off track just because my tires were making noise, so I just kept going. So you can make the choice as a driver if you want to do that. If you think it's going to explode and you have fancy, expensive fenders, maybe don't. But if you just want to send it, then there's nothing wrong with driving on that.
A few notes about this as well. There's actually pretty good even wear from the inside to outside. This tire wasn't destroyed because of an alignment problem or anything like that. And the sidewall actually held up really well. He wasn't running it at really low air pressures. We'll see some of them possibly at low air pressures. You'll start destroying the sidewall and you'll start destroying the side of the tire. That happened on my Mustang a lot because it was a heavier car and I'd run the tires down to like 12 PSI. Now this tire, this is a fantastic wear on a tire. There's ever so slightly like 1/4 of a degree too much camber in this, but excellent tire wear all the way across. No chunking problems. This is about as good as you can get. And there is a little tiny piece right there, and that's from an elonged e-brake pull once you were already down to smooth. But like, this is as good as it gets. This is fantastic wear.
So this one you can tell though was run at lower pressure, and you can tell because the corners are chewed up on both sides.
Yep.
So if it's just cornered on one side, it's probably either front tire or you have too much toe. But if it's you know, the corners worn off on both sides, it's typically low pressure. So this was, you know, in a grip situation or max grip or whatever you want to call it.
I can say though, even though it was run at low pressure and you see this isn't something you need to concern yourself with, because this was at the end of the tire's life and it died in a super smooth fashion. So you can read that and know that this tire was probably run at 12 to 15 PSI or something like that when cold, or maybe when hot too. And this is about as good as it gets. Looking at this, you could go dial out maybe 1/4 degree of camber, but realistically, this is really, really good. And you wouldn't worry about it.
Like you said, the center is worn out at the same time as the corners or the sidewalls, means that you're okay.
Yep.
So you did it right.
And if you look at this one he was just talking about the center, you could see that this got so hot and was probably, if he started at say 20 something PSI, I don't know what it would have been, but maybe 40 at the end, and it bowed out probably slightly in drift, and then it's actually low point here. So he wore out more of the middle, which you can see, than on either outside piece. So we know this tire was at a higher pressure and this one was at a bit lower pressure. Do you agree?
Yep, that's right.
Oh, look at me. Okay, let's keep going.
So this is a 350Z tire, I can tell you right now. I bet it was Mesker's too.
And this is an older,
yeah.
I think this one actually was in the stack for a while because it looks pretty old, but this is an older KR20, whereas this is the newer KR20A. Both of these are in the street compound, so it's identical rubber. These have a tiny bit more tread depth to start with, but they get about the same tire life.
Yep.
You want to say anything about this other than?
Just major camber wear on this one. You can see that there's still tons of tread on the outside, and the inside gets more and more wear all the way down to the cords. And you still have tons of tread on the outside, so alignment would have fixed that one.
Yep. So if he would have dialed out at least 1.5 degrees of camber, I'm guessing, maybe more through alignment settings and through getting aftermarket control arms or eccentric bolts, you know, turned or whatever you need to do on that 350Z. This car was probably dealing with not half, but maybe like 30% down in the grip department of where it could have been if this was flattened out. And then also, he would have gotten at least twice the life if he would have used this tire all the way across, because this has tons of grip here or life here, but the tire wasn't distributing heat properly across the entire tire. All the heat was being, you know, like how do you say, not dissipated, but focused right here, which did not allow it to dissipate across the tire. So this tire with the correct alignment settings could have lasted at least twice as long, if not longer. And if the tires are, say, $95 a piece, so almost $200 by the time you get them mounted, that's a difference of $200 for the exact same amount of laps if you were just to fix the alignment on that.
Yeah,
pretty good. Pretty crazy.
Did that math.
This tire,
This is just an example of a good scrub.
Yeah, this is a good scrub that you can go use again. I would think this is not from heat. This is from hitting the edge of a track surface or something, and it's an abrasion thing, like a cut. So I wouldn't worry about this heat from a heat source because it's on the leading or trailing edge of a, what do you call it? A tread block. Yeah. So that's from the tread hitting like the edge of a track or something like that. Whereas when you come over here, it is not on the trailing or leading edge of something. It's on the actual tread block where the heat built up, and the heat doesn't build up in the same part like on that edge. It builds up in the center of a tread block. So we know that this is not due to heat. This is due to cutting on the edge of the track. So that's a driving error, which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but you just know why it's happening like that. The wear is pretty good across the tire. He could have a little tiny bit less camber. We can see that through here because there's a little bit more tread out there. And then we know that that's not the tire's fault, that's the driver's fault on that one.
Yeah, this one also looks like a bit more toe. You can see this cupping right here.
Oh, explain that for me.
So
I don't know as much about that as you. Go for it.
Just more toe in the rear typically will equate to more grip, but it also equates to less life and more abuse on the tire.
And how do you tell?
Well, in this one you can see some cupping right here. So
it's like a low high spot as I run my finger across it?
Exactly.
Okay, it goes high, low, high, right there.
So you think if this tire's turned like this, then the tire, and then the road's going this way, right? And the pressure's kind of low because you're looking for that grip, then it is going to wear in that fashion. Maybe not in an extreme sense, not like what I'm depicting here, but pretty close to. And then
1 second. Okay. All right, keep going.
You can also tell like the tire was run at a little bit lower pressure. You can see the corners are worn a little bit
right out here
compared to the other ones. Not as bad as like
that's not too bad though.
Yeah, not bad.
That looks good.
But if this were my tire and it was on like an SR car or a 350Z, I would dismount it at this point, flip it, and put it on where the meatier part's on the inside, and then you can go and drive another 20 or whatever laps on it.
Okay. This tire also, to me, looks like it had a lot of laps on it.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was very smoothly run down in places, which meant it was heat cycled, and somebody got a lot of laps out of this thing. You can see on some of the tires, there's a bit more, I don't know, we'll show you that in a second. This tire is really interesting as well. Yeah. This is too much camber, very similar to this tire over here. It's the old Kenda pattern, so it's a KR20, but it's so smooth. It looks like somebody took a ton of laps on this thing. I don't know what to say about this too much because the track surface is probably what created this. Yeah. I don't see this very often, where the tire like glazed over. I think it's from multiple heat cycles. What do you think?
I see this in the rain, typically.
Oh, it could be the rain. Yeah, I forgot about rain.
So when you're, let's say the tire's at half life and then it starts to rain and you keep going out there, then it's going to wear much slower, but it will kind of smooth itself, the surface, especially like if you look at this right here, you can see all the tiny abrasions are cut this way.
Whereas a rain tire.
Look at Patrick's. They're cut this way. You see that? So this one was run probably in the dry and way more laps. But he has such excellent tire wear that it allows you to read the tire like that.
So this we can tell because it's on this wheel. Patrick runs an Inky TX05, and I also stole it. His car is parked out there, and his wheels are in front of it, so I know it's his. Yeah. He is the master of taking one of my tires off, which I leave them... My tires have about this much tread sometimes when I take them off because we run them as scrubs on other cars. And this could be, say, 25 laps on my V8 car. I'm not sure if that was my tire, but I'm guessing. And then he would get another 50 laps out of that type of tire on this because he pays such close, careful attention to his alignment and the tires as he drives, and his car doesn't make a lot of horsepower and all these different things. This is ideal. You can't see any tread whatsoever.
This is perfect.
He runs, I would say, probably 30 PSI because he has such low power to run a 265.
I think he's upwards of 50.
Oh, is he 50? Yeah, so the sidewalls aren't really...
Yeah, you can see like...
mess. You know what? This isn't one of my tires because I run such low air pressure. I rub the Kenda off over here. This must be a Patrick tire all the way through. And he'll oftentimes go through one set of tires for an entire event. And this is just insane, the type of tire wear he gets. This tire put up with so much. So like that's an e-brake pull that was really long. That's an e-brake pull that's really long. Probably something similar around in there. Yep. And then just perfect smoothness throughout here.
It's like every drifter's dream to have that kind of wear. Like
and
that is the wear.
I'm guessing these sideward little tiny cuts are just the track surface as the car's in drift, like moving across the track. I don't really know what those are so much, but
that's right.
This is absolutely fantastic tire wear. That is as good as it gets.
Yep. Straight up.
And you can also see that there's a tiny bit of tread block there and a tiny bit of tread block there, and it's just perfectly smooth. Okay, so that's the Kenda. I wouldn't make any adjustments to this one. Patrick's the master of that. We can go look at his car in a second and just kind of glance at it for fun. This is a Michelin, I think. What is this? What it says somewhere? This isn't one I ran, so yep, it's a Michelin. So this is probably a takeoff off of somebody's friend at a dealership that he got. And I just thought I'd include this because you can see how differently different tires work. So this is probably off of like a passenger car that already had a bunch of miles on it. And you can see the tire is failing in a way that's structural. So the cords are coming out, the nylon cords. The tire it failed in a way that ripped the tread off all the way around, like this.
This is what you call delaminate.
Yep, so this delaminated, but I mean, it could have been pretty deep by the time it delaminated, but typically you don't see that in a Kenda ever, which is one of the reasons they get such good life. Not one of those ones delaminated in the stack. I don't know too much about the camber wear because as the tire delaminated, it destroyed itself across and you can't really tell.
You can see the rubber didn't hold up to the heat though, the extreme heat.
Yeah.
You can see all this micro chunking. That only, happens
when you totally blister the thing.
Yeah, and like a Kenda, that only happens with extreme heat cases, whereas in most other brands, once you reach outside of their operating range, which is only a couple hundred degrees, then they start to really fall apart.
Real quickly, just to explain something too, the operating range of a tire, if you have a race slick, it's really high and the thing has no grip down here. A street tire typically has really good grip in the middle range of heat, so it might not work when it's super cold out, but you just drive around the track twice and it's already, or do a 1 second burnout and the tire is up to heat. And our compound's gonna deal with heat way better, but it's gonna have a narrower range of heat tolerance, I guess you could say. And the Kenda, which is kind of like a performance racy tire for this specific compound.
It's like an all-performance summer tire.
Yeah, it has a really big heat range, which is really good, and it kind of just naturally survives in that. But a passenger tire, which is designed to also work at freezing temperatures, which these tires are not, which means they're more in the range of our temperature range. This tire was probably designed to work in, freezing temperatures, which the Kenda is not going to because it's a performance tire. You're operating outside of the heat range of this tire when drifting and just demolish it. And I've tested tons of like UHP tires and high tread wear stuff, which is like, 500 tread wear. And you would think that those would work better for drifting because they're harder, but typically it ends up like this, where you destroy the tire because it's meant to work in a different temperature range than drifting, drifting is up here and like normal performance stuff is in here, racing is way up here, and then a tire for...
Drifting's higher than racing.
Well, maybe, but we don't need to talk about that. And then an all-season tire is way down here because it has to deal with freezing temperatures and stuff, which all of our tires don't have to. So that's why these don't typically wear very long for that.
I want to point
what is this?
out on this one.
Yep.
So this is a too long of a handbrake pull. You can see it, made a flat spot or a patch here.
Yeah.
But what you can notice, this is a Kenda.
It stopped and it didn't continue?
Right.
Yeah.
No delamination all the way around. You can see that he did it a couple times. It's flat across here. Another little patchy spot. But still, no delamination. You can see he got all the way down to the bottom of the tread on this tire without losing any of it, even with really ridiculously bad driving habits.
All right.
Which is rad.
So that's kind of the cool thing about the Kenda is the ones we work with last longer than almost everything on track simply because of we got lucky with where the heat tolerances and all that stuff are and the sizing, and there's so many things that go right for like the 265 Kenda, which... Oh, I want to say something real quickly. So one of the things I was saying about the 265 Kenda being perfect for everything we do most of the time is even a 240SX with a T25 or T28 on not crazy grippy tracks can run a 265 and it lasts longer than a 235, and you make it have the same amount of grip you want in a 235 by overinflating it. So you can easily go to 100 PSI on these guys to adjust your pressure safely, and you're not going to worry about blowouts on track or anything else.
just so the lawyers don't cry.
Yeah.
100 psi on a good wheel on a brand new tire.
Yeah, we don't care about that. Quiet fielding.
Okay.
We've seen you like almost flip your car and stuff. So
on track. Though.
yes, on track. Do this on track. But anyways, I don't care about safety. This is a tire that is going to be adjustable for even lower power cars like 240SXs, but be wide enough and have enough rubber here to dissipate the heat super well, and then also have sacrificial, like you have that much rubber all the way across, whereas on a 235, you have probably 70% the amount of rubber to burn off and dissipate the heat off and everything. So if you can run a bigger tire and just run a higher air pressure, you're going to get better tire life, and you're going to be happier with your life, and you'll be changing tires less, and it will actually cost less money to run the 265 on a 2,600 pound car. You'll have more fun, and as the tire dies, you can lower the air pressure. Sometimes at Ebisu, every 10 laps, I go adjust the air pressure, not even with the gauge, I just let out 10 seconds of air, and you have so much range of adjustment in the air pressure to grip ratio to make the car work that this is fantastic, and it's the best way to do it. And guys like Patrick go all weekend on one set of tires. Harrison Johnson does that in his Pro-Am car too, which is mental. So yeah, Patrick is always on track. So the wind noise might get a little bit bad, but let's very quickly show this. This is one of Patrick's scrubs. So that's heat cycled, and he's hiding it here.
That's a good scrub.
And that's a really good scrub. Perfect wear across and stuff. This is another one of his tires that he wore down.
This was yours. You can see the sidewall.
Oh, yeah. So we showed you this earlier. My tires get run at lower air pressure, so I've already worn out the sidewall. And then he puts this on his car, and then he gets total good wear across. And it's kind of a complicated tire because it was on 2 different cars. But I'd say this thing got at least 100 laps by that. On normal tracks too, not just like it's some crazy NOLA track. You can see on his front tires, we don't really read front tires that much, but you can see the wear pattern here. I wouldn't change anything about it. Yeah, I don't think he rubs on it much because that's fiberglass. It would destroy it. I think it's just from dragging the way he drives. You can see the Kenda's being rubbed off. It's pretty dead on the inside now. He probably needs to change that pretty soon. And in the back, look at that wheel fitment. He's hilarious. He's a character. You can see really good tire wear across the back. You can see here how he's worn down everything so smoothly. It's perfect. And the car's not so heavy that it chunks all the edges of the tread blocks and stuff. It's really good. All right. This video is almost over. Oh no, what is this? I think I'm gonna cut that in editing, by the way. Thank you. Corona bump.
Bye.
Oh my God, we were supposed to wear a mask. Let's redo the whole video with a mask on.
No, I'm not doing it.
No? Okay.
No, I don't
Let's
have
go.
the Rona.